Yeah, I just want to talk to you about my memories of era mill on Woodbine Street in Rochdale, where my mum was what they called a can tenter. Basically, it's in the picture here. These cans here filled with reels of cotton, and it was my mum's job to attend these cans. And I remember watching her as a kid, just rushing around like mad, because as a can filled, she had to take it off, break the cotton, put a new can there, and just keep doing that all day long. And she had so many frames to look after. And memories which she used to come home and say, "Oh, I've done a bit of overtime today. I've worked on an extra frame," and it was just crazy. She just used to run around like a mad fool, just emptying these cans, and it was non-stop. And then if she wanted a cigarette or she wanted a cup of tea, she'd have to get somebody to watch a frame, because they didn't switch them off. It was a cotton trade, and the cotton industry. You just worked non-stop. So she was never fat, because she just ran around all day. And I always remember asking her, why don't you have milk in your tea? And she said, well, it'll go off at work. If you take milk to work, it was so warm in the mill, the milk could go sour. So they always drunk tea without any milk, and they always put a beer mat over the top of the mug, so that bits of cotton didn't drop in it. And these sort of overalls, it was standard in the mill. They all wore they wore the normal clothes, and then they put like a pinafore overall on, multicoloured, multi-patterned. And she always used to come home with lots of cotton in her hair, and it was so noisy. I went to the nursery as a young child, and she used to dump me at the nursery in the morning, go to work, and then she'd come and pick me up at 5 o'clock when she finished, and she'd walk me down Woodbine Street to the bus, and I'd always say to her, "Carry me, Mum, carry me." And she'd say, "No, you're bloody walking, you're walking." And one day, because I used to always cry to be picked up, we got a visit for the NSPCC, and this woman had a word with me and said, "We've come to talk to you about your son." And she said, "What do you mean?" She said, "Well, we believe he's crying a lot." And she said, "Yeah, because he wants to be picked up." She said, "But I've been working all day, I'm not picking him up." So that was the end of it. But very, very noisy place, and crikey, did they work hard.
Tell us what they're doing in the picture.
Well, this was a Christmas do. There's a lady here with a bottle of sherry, and what it was called a footing, and it was like a Christmas saving up club. So they used to chip in a shilling a week or whatever at the wages when they got paid on a Thursday, and at Christmas somebody would go out and buy a load of stuff, and then they would just literally share it out. And I remember my mum coming home with bottles of QC port, and do you remember the boxes of cigarettes? 50 cigarettes in boxes of 50 and 100. Because in the mill everybody smoked. I think mainly to get a break from the work, but everybody used to stand in the corridors and smoke. So yeah, and she used to bring home boxes of Black Magic and Dairy Box and stuff like that as part of the footing. And that's them having a bit of a break at lunchtime, celebrating pre-Christmas celebration.
Do you think she enjoyed working there?
I think she had to work there. My mum was a working mum. She spent, until the era closed down in, I think it was the late 60s, she'd always worked in the mill, because everybody did. That's what you did when you left school. It was either cotton, or there was Fothergill and Harvey's used to manufacture asbestos stuff, and Kelsall and Kemp's, for loads of, that was the employment in Rochdale. It was a cotton town. And I also remember the wakes. People used to just shut down. Last week of June and the first week of July, the town was empty, because everybody went on Rochdale wakes weeks, and the mills just closed down for 2 weeks.
What about the other people in the picture? Can you remember who they are?
I used to get the bus from Kirkall every day to the Era Mill nursery, and I don't know names, but I remember some of these faces. Particularly, a lot of women off Kirkall worked at the Era. But there were loads of mills on Woodbine Street behind Era Mill, which has been knocked down now. There was the Moss Mill, which still stands. There were just mills everywhere. It was, the landscape of Rochdale was just mills and chimneys. And the Era Mill chimney was knocked down by Fred Dibner. It was one of the last mill's chimneys that he knocked down. And I used to love watching Fred Dibner on his TV programme, knocking mill chimneys down. Part of our heritage, and one or two chimneys still remain, don't they? But and sadly, My mum died at the age of 48, and part and parcel of that was working in the mill for a lot of her life, because when she was taken ill and she was a regular smoker, she couldn't get through the operation that she had, sadly, but she enjoyed it. She really enjoyed working in the mill.